Today we're digging into a real aviation paradox, the Boeing 737. It is one of the most common planes you'll ever see, an absolute workhorse of modern air travel. But here's the thing, the core design of this jet, it's from the 1960s. So how in the world has this flying time capsule managed to not just survive, but totally dominate the skies today?
Seriously, how can an aircraft with a frame designed back in the 60s still be one of the best-selling jets in the world? Well, the answer is a fascinating story of a really clever initial design, some ingenious engineering workarounds, and a powerful business strategy that just locked in its success for decades. Let's break down exactly how they did it. You know, to really understand the 737's dominance, you have to go all the way back to the beginning, back to a design philosophy that was all about being practical and saving money, rather than starting completely from scratch. When you put the 737 up against its main rival, the Airbus A320, you see two completely different ways of thinking. The A320, which came along 20 years later, was revolutionary, a totally clean sheet design with full electronic fly-by-wire controls. But the 737, well, it's all about evolution. It still connects the pilot's yoke to the control surfaces with a system of actual physical cables and hydraulics. And this fundamental difference, evolution versus revolution, that's the key to the entire story.
And that evolutionary path started with a bit of a shortcut. See, to save time and money on development, Boeing just reused the same fuselage design from its older jets, the 707 and the 727. Now think about that. It means a brand new 737 MAX rolling off the line today has the exact same body width as a jet from the 1950s. This one cost-saving move would end up defining the 737 for the next 60 years.
But that 60s design, it wasn't a mistake, not at all. It was actually a brilliant solution for the airports of its time. And there was one feature in particular that made it the perfect go-anywhere kind of jet.
The 737 was built low to the ground on purpose. Back in the 60s, a lot of smaller, regional airports just didn't have fancy equipment like jet bridges or conveyor belt loaders. This low-slung design meant you could load baggage by hand, passengers could just walk up a simple set of stairs, and mechanics could easily get to the engines. It was incredibly versatile, and that made it a huge hit with airlines that had to fly into these less equipped airports.
Okay, so beyond its physical design, the 737's real superpower is something else entirely. It's a concept that saves airlines millions upon millions of dollars, and it is the main reason they just keep buying them.
This right here is the heart of the 737's business case, fleet commonality. This idea became the economic engine that's been driving its success for decades. See, Boeing's whole strategy was to keep evolving the 737, but and this is the crucial part, to make sure all the different versions felt and operated almost identically.
Now for an airline, this commonality is a massive, massive financial win. Your maintenance gets simpler because you need fewer spare parts. Your pilots only need one type rating to be certified to fly almost any 737 from the older models all the way up to the new MAX. This gives you incredible flexibility in scheduling your crews and your planes, and that saves an enormous amount of time and money.
And the numbers really speak for themselves. Airlines that stick to a single fleet type can see their pilot training costs drop by up to 20%, and they can shrink their spare parts inventory by as much as 30%. In an industry famous for razor-thin profit margins, savings like that aren't just a nice little bonus. They are a powerful competitive advantage.
But to stay competitive, Boeing had to solve a huge engineering puzzle, right? How do you fit these massive, modern, fuel-efficient engines onto a low-riding frame that was designed in the 1960s?
Over 5 decades, the 737 has been updated again and again through 4 major generations. You had the original, then the classic, then the next generation, and now the MAX. And with every single new generation, the demand was for bigger, more powerful, and of course, more fuel-efficient engines.
And the solution was a really ingenious piece of engineering. Since the plane sat so low, there just wasn't enough room for the bigger engines to clear the ground. So what did the engineers do? They flattened the bottom of the engine casing. It created this iconic, not quite circular look that people sometimes call the hamster pouch. It was a super clever workaround that let Boeing bolt modern technology onto its old-school airframe.
This whole strategy of just evolving the plane bit by bit has been a huge success for sure. But it's also created some pretty profound challenges, pushing this 60-year-old design right to its absolute limits.
Yeah, this whole strategy of evolution had some really critical consequences.
To get those massive new engines on the 737 MAX, they had to move them further forward and higher up on the wing. Now, this seems like a small change, but it significantly altered the plane's aerodynamics, making the nose pitch up in certain situations. So to fix that and make sure the MAX handled just like the older 737s, to preserve that all-important pilot commonality, Boeing added a new piece of software called MCAS. This decision protected the business model, absolutely, but it also introduced a new layer of automation and complexity that tragically had unforeseen consequences.
And this quote just captures the paradox of the 737 perfectly, doesn't it? It's a modern, high-tech, digital workhorse, but it's built on a physical foundation that was designed when the Beatles were still together. It really is a flying time capsule.
So, when you boil it all down, the 737's dominance really comes from this powerful combination of things. A smart, practical, original design that was just perfect for its era. The unbeatable economics of fleet commonality that airlines absolutely love, a relentless strategy of evolution instead of revolution, a huge global ecosystem of pilots and mechanics who are already trained on it, and, of course, Boeing's sheer manufacturing power to just churn them out.
And the result of that formula? Well, with over 17,000 orders to date, it is, by a very wide margin, the most successful and best-selling commercial jetliner in the entire history of aviation. And that leaves us with a final, really critical question. The strategy of sticking with the past made the 737 this incredible commercial success. But as the engineering workarounds get more and more complex, the question isn't really if this 1960s design will be replaced anymore. It's when. And what will it possibly take to finally dethrone the king of the skies?